It's so important we also take care of ourselves and we don't work ourselves to the bone. Again, I'm a workaholic. They asked me in the hospital, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, forensics. My work is my hobby. When I'm not working, I'm doing research. I'm reading something. This is my only hobby, I think, And I was working, and that's what I did. And I didn't go to the doctors. When I was in there, I remember the doctor even asking me, last time you were at the doctor, what was your blood pressure at? What was your blood sugar at? And I was like, sir, I haven't been to the doctor in 18 years.
Hey there, my name's Ashley Church.
And I'm Erin West.
We were once newly promoted crime scene and latent print supervisors on mutual struggle buses as we both simultaneously tried to navigate through the challenges within our forensic units.
Now we run a business where we create tools and resources that we wish we had had to make these transitions easier. We like to talk about the experiences we've had in the forensic field, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in the hopes to create awareness around these issues and move the needle forward to create positive change in the forensic community.
So if you're a forensic professional, regardless of your years of experience, who's not afraid to dive into real, raw, and sometimes uncomfortable topics, you're in the right place.
This is the Forensics Unfiltered podcast.
Hey, welcome back. This is Ashley, one of your co-hosts for Forensics Unfiltered, and today's episode is so good, definitely one you won't want to miss. We sat down with the incredible Jason Cole, who has had, let's just say, a wild journey through his forensic career. From being a police officer to a detective to working crime scenes, latent prints, sales. He's seen and done it all. But today, we're diving into the parts of his story you don't often hear about. They're definitely raw and unfiltered moments that shaped him into the forensic leader you know today. This was such a good conversation. We actually broke this up into 2 parts. So this is part 1 of a special 2-part series where Jason takes us through his early days in his career, some unexpected twists and turns in the field. And this episode today is going to stop right before he shares 2 events that changed everything for him. This 2-part series is definitely full of great wisdom and tips that he shares. We have a few good laughs, and there's definitely going to be some moments where you're going to tear up like I did. But I promise it is worth every second. So grab your coffee. Erin and I prefer Starbucks cold brews, and settle in and get ready for a real conversation about the highs and the lows of working in this field. And before we dive into all of that, I do want to give you a quick reminder in case you're not on our email list or you haven't seen the website in a while. The holidays are coming up fast, and we have so many fun things planned, like our reindeer games. It's a team challenge, 10 days, 10 challenges, prize packs. It's free to play. It's going to be so fun. And listen, if you are a supervisor, okay, and you should be doing some team bonding activities, but maybe that's not your gift. Maybe time has gotten away from you. You haven't, thought of or done any team bonding activities for a while. We got you. This is the perfect opportunity for your team to come together, bond, and we've taken care of all of the details for you. All you have to do is show up. It's going to be so fun. We also have exclusive Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals, and we have our Better Than Black Friday sale going on starting Monday before Thanksgiving. So just wanted to give you a heads up. All of that is coming your way. Hopefully we see you there. If you're not on our email list, make sure you join, and we will send all of the details straight to your inbox. All right, let's jump into part 1 of our conversation with Jason Cole. Before we start this episode, our guests would like to share a disclaimer that the opinions shared are their own and not representative of their current or past employment. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy.
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Forensics Unfiltered. We are really excited to be back with you guys. It has been a minute. So it's been a minute since we've recorded a live episode. We have the last several episodes we've released have been part of our Forensic Supervisor Success Summit, which hopefully a bunch of you were able to join us this year. And we have a special guest with us today, Jason Cole. He was also one of our speakers at this year's Forensic Supervisor Success Summit. So we're so excited to have you today, Jason. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're very excited to talk to you today. And you guys got a little bit of a talk with Jason at the summit, but we're really excited to have a full 30, 45-minute episode here, digging into Jason's background and some of the things that have happened in his life recently. We're going to talk about all of those things in good detail. It's going to be a great episode. So before we dive into everything, walk us through a little bit about your history in forensics. Kind of where did you start and what did you do along the way and where are you now?
All right. No, thank you. So I kind of have a unique background. And kind of a different way that I got into forensics. After high school, took a couple of years off, then started to go to college, and I struggled in college. I am not one of those who is good at, hey, here's this book, go read it, and then we're going to test you on it, and you got to learn to kind of regurgitate what was in that book. Jason just doesn't learn well that way. Jason is a very hands-on type person. And so I was doing the school thing, but still kind of struggling and looking at possible careers. And I was always intrigued with law enforcement. And so I started to apply with some different police agencies that had openings. And I was hired by the Sandy City Police Department. Now, Sandy's a suburb of Salt Lake City. It's a city of at the time, it was about 110,000 people. And Sandy hired me. They put me through the police academy and I became a police officer and I loved it. And as I got into law enforcement, I started to recognize and realize there's a lot of avenues within law enforcement itself, being a police officer, that exists out there. Well, there was an opening in investigations and I thought, someday I want to be a detective. I think I'd be a pretty good detective. So, someday I'm gonna put in for that. And the position closed, and then about 2 weeks later, it opened back up. Now, to me, this was my sign. I was like, oh, sign, there it is. Jason is meant to apply.
Someday is now.
Right? So Jason applies for the job. Jason gets the job. Now, come to find out, I later learned why not too many people applied for the job, because they knew what the job entailed. I was still very young and I didn't know. But at Sandy City, we kind of had, in the detective bureau, we had 3 different divisions. We had our narcotics detectives and then our crimes against property and crimes against persons. And this was a position in the crimes against persons unit. So there was 5 detectives in total, me and 4 others, and then a sergeant over us. And the 4 of the detectives handled all of the homicides, robberies, and sex crimes. The job I applied for and the job I got was domestic violence, juvenile crime, and missing persons. So in Utah, domestic violence is an enhanceable offense, meaning you get arrested once, it's a Class B misdemeanor. You get arrested again, it's now Class A. You get arrested again, it's now a 3rd-degree felony. But we have to be able to show that they were aware that it's an enhanceable offense and things like that. So all domestic violence cases would get assigned to me, and I would run criminal histories and find out if they'd been arrested before, and if so, where they'd been arrested. And then I would go and get certified copies of their judgments against them and all of that. And then I would rescreen charges and, kind of take it from there. And so I kind of joke around that I was kind of a glorified paper pusher within the police department. But I liked it. I liked the job and loved my coworkers, loved the police department and things like that. And at the time, we were just starting to develop a crime scene unit. We'd had a couple of officers who were doing crime scene investigation and things like that. And I was like, well, I want to do that too. And so the department put a lot of money into me. They started sending me to a lot of training classes, a lot of things like that. And the more training I got in crime scene investigation and forensics, the more I kind of realized I think I just found my niche in law enforcement. This is something that I could do. I love this. This is awesome. This is exciting. And so after several years at Sandy City, I gave up the gun and the badge and went to work for the West Valley City Police Department, which is another suburb of Salt Lake. West Valley is actually the second largest city in the state of Utah, as a forensic investigator for West Valley City. So at West Valley, we had 4 forensic investigators and a forensic director, and we would respond out to major crime scenes and process those. And then we also worked in the office, in the laboratory, developing fingerprints. We'd use super glue, dye stains, ninhydrin, all the various chemicals to develop fingerprints. And then we would do fingerprint comparisons. We would do APHIS entries, everything like that. I mean, pretty much we were, the only thing we didn't do was process for DNA. We would collect the DNA, but that went to the state for the state to process for the DNA evidence. But other than that, we did pretty much everything there. We did drug testing and stuff like that. And I loved it there. Had a great time. And one of the things I recognized when I went to West Valley City, and I know it was kind of said in jest and kind of a joke, but a lot of people even at Sandy were like, "Oh, you're a traitor, you're going to the other side," And the thing about criminals, there's a lot of different cities within the Salt Lake Valley itself. I believe there's actually 18 different police agencies there in the county, and criminals really don't know boundaries, right? I mean, yeah, I'm on this side of the street.
They're not following the city lines.
Exactly. This side, it's like, oh no, now I'm in this city. I better not commit a crime. They need to go back to my city, right? So one of the things, like I said, at Sandy, I was lucky. I was given a lot of training, sent to a lot of training. At West Valley City, we had a director at the time who was very passionate about training, wanted us to go to different trainings, get additional training, sending us to footwear classes, and like, okay, we're going to start doing footwear now and examining footwear as well. So let's get training in that. And just really loved that. Wanted us to also participate. And so started pushing us to kind of get out and start doing trainings ourselves at conferences and sharing what we knew with other people within the community. And so it's just a great opportunity, but I recognized that there was really a need for training. And so I ended up starting up my own company as well, and we would bring in training classes. And one of the first classes I wanted to bring in was Ron Smith's palm print class. And this was when Ron Smith was still with the Mississippi State Crime Lab, was just starting up Ron Smith and Associates at this time. Bringing Ron Smith out and talking with him, that got me affiliated with him. I went and did some consulting work with him when his company was first starting up. This is when he was first starting with AFIX Tracker and helped them design their palm print database. And so I would go out and show agencies the AFIX Tracker system, and the AFIX salesperson was Darren Jukes, and Darren and I had known each other for many years. And so he would kind of go and do the sales pitch, and I would kind of do the demo of the equipment, and we just had a lot of fun. I loved going to training classes. I loved going to conferences, and I was averaging about, probably 3 to 4 conferences a year when I was working at West Valley City, and it was great. I loved it, and I was always willing to teach. And I'd be like, hey, if you bring me out, I've got friends who work in the industry. They're going to the conference. They'll let me crash with them. I'll pay my airline ticket and let me just attend the conference for free. I'll teach a class. And started just create a lot of friendships that way and really expand my network. Several years later, I was promoted to be the director of West Valley City's Crime Lab, and I ran their lab for a couple of years. And then I got an email from a friend of mine. He had actually worked at West Valley City with me, and he had left and gone down to the Henderson Police Department just outside of Las Vegas. And so he sent me an email, and he says, hey, Jason, a lot of people. Henderson, Nevada is looking at hiring a latent print examiner. If you'll send this out to all your contacts, that would be great. And so I was like, absolutely. However I can help, happy to do that.
Like, pick me.
Right. So I started looking at the little flyer, the little PDF about the job. I started looking at the salary, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what?
Have you heard about The Vault? It's the first ever membership exclusively for forensic training, and we have packed it full of goodies. So get this. You get instant access to over 20 webinar replays on everything from landing a job in forensics to field training to supervision. But that's not all. We're also throwing in some of our top e-courses, our Field Training Officer Virtual Academy, and exclusive Forensic Supervisor Success kits from past virtual summits. And guess what? You get everything mentioned for just $29 a month, or you can grab a whole year for only $300. And we know many forensic professionals lately are paying for their own training, so we want to make sure training is affordable and accessible for everyone. There is fresh content every month, and that also makes it an endless learning opportunity for you. So it's a no-brainer. Join the Vault today and be part of the forensic education revolution. I'll include the link in our show notes, or you can head to our website to learn more. Don't miss out. Unlock your potential with the Vault.
I started looking at the salary and I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Utah doesn't pay a lot when it comes to law enforcement, especially crime scene investigation. Probably similar. I know Florida's kind of similar in that sense. They just
Very much so.
pay structure's not quite there yet. But so I threw my hat in the ring. I thought this is a decent salary. So I threw my hat in the ring and I got the job at Henderson. I moved down to Henderson, Nevada to become a latent print examiner for them and doing footwear. I'd done a lot of crime scenes up to this point. I'd been doing some latent print comparisons, and now I was immersed in latent print comparisons. We had a large background at the time. My friend Kent and I worked together, and we busted through, and our goal was to try to eliminate that backlog, and we were working our tails off, but I've never looked at so many latent prints in my life. It was, 4 days a week, 10 hours a day, just looking at prints. But it was great. Still love to go out and teach and do things like that. And I was actually at the Texas IAI conference, the Texas Division Conference, that was held in Galveston, Texas. And this was in 2000. Anyway, that doesn't matter. 2016, I want to say. Anyway, so I'm at the conference there. And it was vendor night, and I'm walking through the vendor hall, making my way around, talking to the vendors and things like that. And the guy from Foster and Freeman stopped me and asked how I was doing, and I checked in with him. If those of you remember Larry Dow, he was the salesman there at the time. And I kind of started to walk away after we had a brief chat, and he called me back and he goes, "Hey, I've got a question for you." And I says, "All right, go ahead." And he goes, "Are you looking for a job?" And people who know me know.
Well, I wasn't, but
right, and I love to joke around, and I'm like, "Do you know me? First of all, do you know me? I'm always looking for a job. Shoot, whatever I can do to make a buck, I'm down for. And he says, "Oh, Jason, I'm being serious." He goes, "I'm getting ready to retire, and I need to find a replacement." And he goes, "I've talked to quite a few people, and a lot of people say Jason Cole's your man." And so again, joking again, I'm like, well, shoot, you could have asked me that. I could have told you I'm the man because, I am kind of a big deal. So, but I says, I'm really not looking for a job, but I'll hear you guys out. I'll hear what you have to say. So I met with them and they made me a heck of an offer. And I thought, I've now been in law enforcement for a little over 20 years. Maybe I'll go and do this. And so I took the job with Foster and Freeman. I moved to Virginia, which is where Foster and Freeman USA headquarters are at. They're at the time it was in Sterling, Virginia. We're now in Ashburn, Virginia, just right outside of DC. And moved there and lived there for a couple of years. And what an amazing opportunity for me. Doing a couple of things that I love. Number one, going to conferences. At the time, I pretty much go to whatever conference I wanted to. I was
I was gonna say you'll see Jason at all the conferences.
You would see me at all of them. At the time, it was the boss and it was me. We had a couple of application specialists and stuff, and I jumped in and I was going to all the conferences and quickly realized I needed help. And so we hired, for those of you that know, Becca Nick now is her name now. She's married. It was Becca Walls, but yeah, Becca Nick now. So yeah, Becca started, and she and I were just hit the ground running. And there was more work to do than even the two of us could do. And as a company, we've kind of still continued to grow. But that was one of the things I loved working for the company, was going out and visiting with labs. Visiting with people and seeing how they do things within their police agencies, their policies and procedures on how they handle certain things, their workflows, and also going to conferences. Now that I had a company that was supporting me and paying my way to go there, I was able to reach out to a lot of these local divisions and say, still willing to teach. And the cool part is the company I work for, Foster and Freeman, they're going to pay for my room and board. They're paying for my flight. I am a free speaker. Mm-hmm. So, which was really helpful to a lot of these small local divisions, and they loved it. And by going to these, again, expanding my network, just meeting the best of the best that the community has to offer.
I will say, now that there's a 6-foot cardboard cutout of you, you should never have to miss a conference again.
That's right.
We just skip the cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody
I think everyone took pictures with your cardboard.
Right. And that was so amazing. Really recognized for me and helped me understand, I used to call us a forensic community. I now call it a forensic family. Getting those pictures, people sharing it with me, the well wishes, the positive thoughts, the prayers, the good vibes, whatever you want to call it. And each person calls it something different. Just having them reach out to me with that picture, the little selfie of them with me and the cardboard cutout was amazing. And then other people as well made cardboard cutouts of my face and had them on little popsicle sticks. And I
definitely made some appearances with some Gap Science things.
You were at all the events.
Yeah.
Your event even, yes. It was awesome.
So
and we were definitely very similar. Like, we love conferences and meeting people and networking. There's something special about it. Training, we're also very nosy whenever we go to new places. What are you doing? How are you doing things? So it's kind of interesting to see a lot of similarities between us and you. But I know, based off of so many years in law enforcement, right? You've worked as a police officer, as a detective, you've worked in crime scene, you've worked in latent prints. Now you're in the industry of sales. Something that has definitely been talked more about in the recent years is mental health and forensics, and how this job basically affects you when you're in the thick of it. You're just powering through and you're like, it's fine. And then when you take a step back and you take a pause for a minute, you're like, oh, I didn't realize all of the accumulation of years of these cases, how it can affect you over time. So I want to take it back maybe to towards the beginning of the year. And if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, how was mental health modeled to you? Or was it something that people even talked about? Or is it something that was brushed under the rug? Just share whatever you want as far as how it looked like when you started.
So when I first started, mental health was really not talked a lot about. When I was a police officer here in Utah, I was on a 20-year retirement plan. And a big part of that was, police and fire were on this 20-year retirement plan because their job is so difficult, and they deal with so much negativity and so many hard things just within their job, the stresses that they go through and things like that. As a civilian, I then went to a 30-year retirement, and we talked a lot about that. And at the time, there started to be some discussions. When I went to West Valley City, there was discussions with other agencies around the country going, wait a minute, crime scene investigators, we're in the thick of it too. The death of a child, let's say. Yes, the detectives are there. They go in, they're investigating it and things like that. But the crime scene investigator is right there in the thick of it as well. And maybe sometimes even more so as the detectives kind of go in, they're then stepping out and doing interviews and things like that. But literally the crime scene person is there in the house, in the room where it happened, with the victim, going to the autopsies, going to the hospitals, things like that. And it definitely takes a toll on you. And at the time it was kind of a, well, but you're not in law enforcement. I mean, you are, but it's not as bad for you. And we were just kind of told to suck it up. And I remember even a couple of times hearing people kind of use the phrase, you know what, you're lucky to have a job. You know, you've got a pretty easy job. I mean, let's be honest, you're a trained monkey that knows how to take a picture. And sometimes that's how crime scene people were referred to. And it was like, no, we do so much more than that. And there really wasn't a lot dealing with mental health at the time. And we do. We are hard workers. People in this field are hard workers. They do what they can. I think me personally, that was always something too that I tried to do as well, was literally put my heart and soul into the job. The majority of the people in forensics have degrees. I don't have my degree. And that's always been something that I have worked hard to try to compensate for. You know, I got into it a way that really is kind of not going to happen anymore nowadays. You know, where you're just a police officer and you transition in. I mean, nowadays it is, no, we need to have that science backing to be able to do this job, because it is very scientific in what we do, and we need to have that backing to get the job. But that was something that I always then kind of overcompensated for by, I'm going to do then everything to be the very, very best at what I do. And so I'd work those extra hours. I would go to those additional trainings the majority of the time at my own expense, going to these conferences, because again, the department could only send me to so many classes and things like that. And I worked my tail off to do that and to be better. And it's stressful and it's hard. And sometimes we don't even realize the strain that we put on ourselves, on our families, on our loved ones, on our friends, by immersing ourselves so much into this field and into the work.
You said several times as you're, giving us the journey of your career, you said several times, like, and I loved that position and I love this work. And I know Aaron and I are very similar too. Like, we got into this work because we love it. And I think at the very beginning, when you're young and you're trying to prove yourself, even with degrees, I felt like I was always like, I need to prove my worth. You pour so much into the job. And that's kind of how it was modeled to us too. So did you see maybe any shifts while you were still in the field when it comes to like effects of the job and mental health, or has it been maybe in the most recent years? Like, what kind of changes have you seen?
I think towards the end of my career at Henderson, I really kind of started to notice more people talking about mental health and the, as kind of I put it, that it's okay not to be okay. That it's okay to say, wow, I was just on this scene and it affected me. And it's okay to talk about. That doesn't make me weak as a person to admit that I struggled here, that I had a hard time dealing with this particular case or something like that, that it doesn't mean you can't do your job. And that's really, I definitely noticed it within about the last 6 years, where we're really now talking more and more about it. You'll see topics like this at conferences where we're talking about it more. And I think it is so important to do that, because it is a stressful job. We deal with some horrible things. And if you don't talk about it to somebody, it can eat you up inside. For me, I had a hard time when I was in the field coming home and talking to my wife or my family about it, because they didn't understand. They can't comprehend some of what we really see. And it is disturbing. And it was stuff that I really couldn't talk about with them. Like I said, early on in my career, I didn't want to talk to coworkers about it because I didn't want to appear weak. I didn't want my coworkers to think, oh, Jason, I knew it. I knew he's not cut out for this line of work. I knew he couldn't handle this type of job because, see, he went on this particular call and now he needs to talk about it because, you know, it's not a sign of weakness. It doesn't mean we can't do our job. And if we don't talk about it, it eats us up inside. And it can have drastic effects on us, both with your physical health and your mental health as well.
Yeah, having that outlet. I know I could only talk about it so much with my husband, and then it ended up like looking forward to happy hours with coworkers so we can, you know, vent and get it out. Probably wasn't the healthiest way to cope with things either. I did have supervisors too. Like some supervisors were supportive of like when you come back from a call, like you immediately, I think it's just like nature. You want to talk about it with someone that's going to relate to it, right? But sometimes other supervisors saw that as like you need to continue being a robot. You need to continue working. Like you're wasting time trying to talk to the other coworkers about your experiences on that scene, you know?
Yep.
I think Ashley and I, and we know that you have as well, but not only did we learn over time that it was okay to not be okay with certain scenes and seeing things and all of that, but we both had experiences as well, like throughout the course of our career, that really changed our perspectives on what was most important. And it wasn't until those kinds of things happened where, you know, our perspective really shifted. So for just myself, for example, I was very much like, I'm available anytime you need me. Like, I will be here. I will come in early. I will work late. I will work weekends. I will work holidays. I will always answer my phone, always answer my emails, no matter what time of day it is. And then something happened in my life that I was like, and all of that changed. And so like now at work, I still dedicate a lot to my job. However, when the day's over, I'm going to go home. If you send me an email on a Saturday, I'm going to check it on Monday. And a lot of time in our classes, we talk about that to supervisors and leaders. Like, it's okay to check out for a little bit. And it's okay to be like, this is family time. And I'm not going to check my work emails, and I'm not going to answer that call. And we'll have a lot of supervisors be like, but oh my gosh, you have to, you know? And so both of us had life experiences where it forced us to reevaluate like the balance, and not everybody goes through that. But I feel like you recently went through something like that. Has that kind of, if you want to share a little bit about that, has that kind of quickly altered your perspective on things like it did for us? Are you still in your adjustment period?
100%,
Yeah.
100% it did. So I actually have a couple of experiences, and I'll share a couple.
Oh, please don't hate me. I'm going to stop it right there. I know I'm leaving you with such a big cliffhanger, but hopefully you're enjoying Jason's story so far. We're so grateful that he joined us to share his journey, and trust me, you don't want to miss part 2. So in next week's episode, Jason gets real about 2 life-altering events, one that happened right in the lab and another that struck him out of nowhere while he was teaching a class. These are, trigger warning, heavy stories, but they carry a message I think we all need to hear, especially as we head into the holiday season. But before we go, just a quick heads up, don't forget to join us for the Reindeer Games. This is our way of adding a little forensic fun to the holiday season. And keep an eye out for our Better Than Black Friday sale. We've got some amazing deals that we put together just for you. You're definitely not going to want to miss it. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week for part 2. Thank you so much for being here and listening to Forensics Unfiltered. If you liked this episode, would you do us a favor and leave a review letting us know specifically what you liked about this topic? It will only take a minute, but it will really help us plan future episodes so we can bring you more topics that you want to listen to. We'll be sure to provide any links from today's episode in our show notes on our website. Head to www.gapscience.com. Until next time, stay safe out there.